Kurt,
Okay.
rolling, wait for speed, and in 5, 4, you got it.
There's a very touching part in the movie where you mentioned that the great love of your life is Sean. You've mentioned this in Vanity Fair and other interviews too. This is kind of sad. I mean, we seem to. I think of you now as being sort of a sad and lonely person. Is that misapprehension?
You don't have to think of me as being a sad and lonely person all the time, but some of the times I think. But everybody is. And at this point in my life, I could say that he was the great love of my life. I mean, that's why I married him. And I think most people have that one person, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the person that you're, you know, live and die for, the person that gets right down in your heart and soul, you know, and makes that big impression. I think everybody has it. I don't know. I mean, it'd be great if it would happen again. But I think most people can say they had that one, you know.
I mean, being Madonna, is there a problem of, like, who's good enough for Madonna? Like, what guy could possibly live up to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a question of who's good enough, but really who is willing to sort of accept my lifestyle, you know, and be able, I mean, let's face it, it's a tough lifestyle to live, especially if you're not in it, doing it all the time. And I've had years to acclimate myself to the insanity of my life. You know, other people don't, and most people are pretty sort of want to shy away from it, or frightened by it, or intimidated by it. And I mean, I think I've said this before in interviews. My hat's off to any guy who has the balls to ask me out. You know what I mean? And then I always follow up by, you do know what you're getting yourself into, right?
Do you think of yourself as obsessive? I mean, just totally nuts about getting everything in order and in control?
Yeah. I'm a control freak. Yeah, that's what you're asking.
Do you see that as a flaw, or?
I think it can be a flaw if I'm not willing to accept weaknesses in people, and you know. But on the other hand, that's one of the reasons I've accomplished so many things, and because of that, because I get a lot done because I work my ass off, and the things I do, for the most part, you know, are pretty damn good. And the reason is because I have high expectations of myself and other people, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Do you also express a desire at some point to have children or something?
Yeah.
Could you do that with the lifestyle that you have?
No, well, obviously things would have to change. I mean, I couldn't go on tour for a certain period of my life. I couldn't, you know, run 10 miles. I mean, there would be changes made, you know. But I have to look at it as another adventure, or another thing to conquer. You know what I mean? That's how I have to look at it.
Yeah. You've made some interesting television appearances over the last year. One was on Nightline. I don't think people understand how Nightline is set up. Maybe you could explain it. It's not like some guy's talking directly to you.
No, Nightline is insane. Well, Nightline is like being a kamikaze pilot. Well, you sit there and you've got this little earpiece in your ear that you can barely hear a person talking to you on, and the person you're talking to is somewhere else, not in the room with you. And you actually can't see him, because if you look at him, then you're looking into the monitor, so you have to look into the camera as if the person is the camera, and barely hear what the person's saying, and then there's a delay to what he's saying. So you sort of seem idiotic because you're not really sure what he said, and you don't answer him right when he said it. It's very, it's high anxiety time.
It's unusual that someone who's so interested in control would put themselves in that position. I mean,
Well, I am interested in control, but I often put myself in positions where I could fail miserably. I mean, any time a person walks on stage, anything could go wrong, and then you could fall flat on your face and look like a fool. You know, but I was willing to take that risk at that particular time because I felt like everybody was, you know, going on the bandwagon saying why I did this and what this was about, and I thought, you know what, let me just try and, you know, give my point of view and maybe calm a few nerves, or not calm a few nerves, explain my side of the story, you know.
Have the people at MTV come to you and said, we hope your next video will be a little more arable? Or?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sure
they're not that foolish.
You also, when you appeared at the Academy Award show, you seemed, when there was a very tight close-up, and you seemed to be a little nervous. Of course, in front of a house like that, I can understand that.
Well, how about how there was 1 billion people watching?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was nervous.
Did you looking back at the performance, were you happy with it and everything?
Overall, God, yeah. I mean, I was just grateful I got through it. I had so many things working against me. I had never performed live with a 50-piece orchestra before, and that was daunting in itself. And then the microphone that I sang with was supposed to come sort of telescope out of the ground. And as I was coming out of the ground, a techie underneath the stage said, your microphone isn't going up. And so I'm sitting there, you know, in my very glamorous pose, trying to look, you know, like perfection, you know, and I'm thinking, great, I'm going to walk forward and there's going to be no microphone, and then what am I going to do? So I thought, well, don't panic, just look good for the first 30 seconds, and then you can fall apart, you know, because, you know, everyone says first impressions are the most lasting. So, of course, there was a mic stand, but it wasn't my height, and you know, when you do a live performance, you have to sort of get through all the things that aren't exactly perfect, and it's inevitable that something will go wrong. And the more experience you have dealing with those things, they are. And so I think I did pretty well.
I would have died, I'm sure, if something like that happened.
I was nervous, but you know, I felt good about it. So.
You attended this with Michael Jackson, of course. Was this something you guys sat down and plotted out beforehand and so we're just going to knock everybody's socks off?
No, we started working together, and I didn't have a date for the Academy Awards. And
a comment in itself on our culture. Right?
Absolutely. And I said, well, and Michael was like, well, who are you going to go with? And I looked at him, I said, I don't know, you want to go? And he said, yeah, that'd be great.
Did he pick you up at your house? Was it one of those deals?
No, he didn't pick me up at my house because I was already there. I had to do a run-through of the show right before the show, so I was there ready. So he came and hung out backstage and then went out and watched the show and my performance, and then I came and sat down with him.
So now, afterwards, after the show and everything, did you and Michael go home together, or what happened?
Well, no, we went to Spago.
Yeah. And
there was a big party, and we stayed there for hours and hours and hours. And then, yes, he took me home. And now what do you want to know? What happened after that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, all right.
I think we read books, though, quite frankly. We were looking at... I have tons of books on photography.
Yeah.
So that sticks out in my mind.
What did you been working on? You've done a song with him for his next album, I think, right?
Well, we're working on a song.
Yeah.
It's not... I'm a perfectionist, he's a perfectionist, and I'm glad to be working with him, just to have the experience,
Yeah.
you know. He's a great musical talent. But, you know, we're going to wait and finish it and then go, okay, do we want to do this? Does he want to put it on his album? Is that the next musical statement I want to make? You know, it's...
This won't be like thousands of lawyers coming in to discuss it, will it?
No, actually, the business aspect has already been taken care of. This is purely a creative question right now.
There's a part in the movie where you mentioned that you're attracted to emotionally crippled people, in a way. And so I've always thought maybe Michael sort of fits in there. Is that fair to say something like that?
Well, I mean, when I said I was attracted to emotionally crippled people, I didn't name any names. I mean, the thing is, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say I am an emotional cripple. I mean,
You yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, when I say emotional cripples, I mean people that are very needy in some way or another, people that are fully evolved human beings. And no, I'm not, but I'm working on it. And I think most performers or entertainers or actors are emotionally crippled in some way or another. I think that's one of the reasons we seek out other people's approval in the business that we are. That's why we are entertainers, quote unquote. That's why we are actors playing out different roles, you know. I think most actors, performers, singers, whatever, are emotionally crippled in some way or another. Really healthy people just aren't in this business, let's face it.
Do you see yourself getting better? I mean, do you notice I'm better this year than I was last year?
Yeah. And in fact, working on this movie has been a real educational experience in terms of me and my emotional state of mind. I think it was a real learning experience about myself, to watch myself, you know, view myself, hours and hours of footage, seeing the sort of the little nuances in the way I deal with people, you know, how I deal with obstacles and how I deal with surprise, and you know what I mean? It was real educational, and I think it was valuable. I can't even tell you how valuable it was.
You can imagine. And there's a part in the movie where you also say that I may not be the world's best singer, I may not be the world's best dancer, but I don't care about that. I'm interested in pushing people's buttons.
Right.
And do you see that as your art form?
No, I see that as my. I just think that people, it's pointless for people to get into a creative arena and say, I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everyone has what they have. They say what they say, and you could never compare, you know, Picasso with Leger. I mean, everybody has something different to say. And it's silly to get in there and say my brushstroke is better than another person's. Yeah. You know, it's better to say, am I being true to myself, and is this what I want to say, and have I expressed myself, you know, the way I want to express myself?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
There's also a part in the film where you say that this is a theatrical presentation of my music, the show, the whole tour was. Mm-hmm. And I think there was one lip sync part in the show, which is very clear what it was.
Yeah.
I wonder what you make of, there seems to be a reaction against lip syncing and against the whole sort of artifice of what a lot of pop music is. Do you have any moral thoughts on that?
My moral thoughts are, since I'm not going around saying, you know, it was never a requirement of me that I sing everything live on stage. I think of myself, as I said, as a politician, as a performer, as an artist. But if sometimes part of my theatrical presentation is to have taped vocals while I'm doing other things, then that's, you know, and people are free to not come to my show because of that. That's their option. When you watch videos, they're not live. Everybody lip syncs, and no one seems to mind that. So, you know, to me, all the grumbling about whether people are singing live or not is just, I think, was started by live musicians who are out of work, you know. And
we don't meet any of your musicians in this movie either, are they?
No, because I likened my live musicians to an orchestra in a pit in terms of servicing my show. You know, I mean, when you see Broadway musicals, they're certainly an integral part of the show, but you don't see them. You know, I wanted a very theatrical presentation, and so I needed dancers/actors to act out things, and the musicians needed to concentrate on playing their musical instruments, so I couldn't expect that of them. And so you don't really see them.
I think what some people object to in all this is maybe not just the stage lip syncing, it's the fact that you can go into a studio now and do a vocal, and if you hit a B flat where there should be a C or something,
you can change
digitally
it.
You can change it.
Well, then how do they feel about all the movies they go to see? And, you know, if an actor screws up a line, or, you know, that's why you do 300 takes, you can make the worst actor look great in the editing room. That's the difference between live theater and a movie. That's the difference between a live singer and you know, a studio singer. But one has always had that ability to make a vocal better than it is ever since we've discovered, you know, studio technology. And now people are acting like it's just something people started doing. It's ludicrous. In the end, the idea is, are you moved by this piece of music or aren't you? If you like it, then you like it, you know. If you don't, you don't for instinctual reasons, you know, something that's identifiable, something that you can't necessarily describe. And, you know, as far as the whole Milli Vanilli, you know, thing, I think it was really unfair to torture those guys, because if someone came up to you on the street and you couldn't sing, and they said, "Look, you want to? I'll make you a star, and all you have to do is look great," you know, would you say no? I mean, most people, I think, would have grabbed at the chance. Your everyday Joe on the street, which is, I think, if anybody was going to be hanged in the square, it was the producer who was responsible for it. He's the one who put the whole thing together.
They were incredibly arrogant, though. And then
yeah, well, I wasn't aware of all of their arrogance. I don't know that, but to you know, this public flogging of people, you know, is so ridiculous and so pointless. Because in the end, if you know, Paula Abdul or Milli Vanilli or whoever made a record and it brought joy to somebody's life, who
Sure,
gives a shit,
yeah,
you
I
know?
agree. But the thing is, I mean, you can go up on stage and actually sing, and I wonder about, you sort of
Yeah.
wonder if any of these other people could actually get up there and sing in front of as you did at the Oscars. There's no
Right.
lip syncing involved, you know?
Right. Well, you know, but that's a sign of the times. I mean, that's a different kind of a performer,
No.
you know, and the public has a need for that kind of a performer. I mean, or else these people wouldn't be successful.
Yeah.
Like the Monkees and you know, the Partridge Family and the Archies. I mean, there's always been a certain kind of entertainment where real talent, or whether a real musical talent or a real singing talent, was always a question. But
You're not saying
certainly-
the Archies weren't great, are you?
I love the Archies,
Okay.
but who the hell was singing? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Ron Dante, one guy, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, but still, I mean, it was a form of entertainment that people enjoyed.
Yeah.
So,
You're right. You're right. Did given the fact that you plan things out quite a ways in advance, do you have a film schedule ahead? I mean, we heard that you're supposed to be doing a movie with Demi Moore.
I
This and
have a
that.
lot of things brewing, you know, but with movies, it's always whatever sort of gets done first. You got to, you know, sometimes there's a script and a director, and the cast is all ready to go, and at other times there's a script and a director, but the other person in the movie just got pregnant.
Yeah.
Which is the case with Demi, and you can't go with that right now. And other times there's the cast and the director are ready to go, but the script isn't ready. And, you know, movies are like 1 billion times harder to make than records because there's so many people involved, and it takes a long time. And the movie that you think you've been going to do next for a year very often is not the movie you're going to do next.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the movie you're never going to do. So it's hard to say, you know, but I do have a lot of things cooking.
Yeah. Have your films turned out the way you thought they would when they finally come out? Are you sometimes surprised and say, oh my God, I didn't think it'd be like that?
Sometimes they haven't. Sometimes, I mean, I've had, compared to my music career, I've had this much experience in my movie career, and I really want to have more. In my music career, I've had a lot more control. I've had a lot more input. I've been a big collaborator in it. In my movie career, I haven't. I've sort of threw myself into it without a lot of knowledge, and made a lot of mistakes because of that. But in a movie, you know, you're not in charge. Just because you're the actress, you're not in charge. The director makes choices, the cinematographer makes choices, the writer makes choices, and you hope that when it's all finished, it works.
You should direct, obviously.
I want to. I want to direct, yeah.
Do you feel it seems like sometimes people from New York or sometimes people from outside of Hollywood aren't wished the best by Hollywood? I mean, do you think people are sort of against you
I
here?
think people in Hollywood that live in Hollywood don't wish other people in Hollywood the best.
It's that kind of town. Huh?
Oh, don't turn your back. No, it's a cutthroat business, and I think as much as the public wants to build somebody up and see someone succeed and, you know, put them on the cover of all their magazines, and I think that it's human nature to sort of revel in someone else's failures. You know, that's why we have the National Enquirer. You know, because people are as interested in success as they are in failure.
Yeah.
They are as interested in strength as they are in weakness. So, just as much as someone in Boise, Idaho, I think that, you know, someone living down the street from me would love to see me fall flat on my face, as they would like to see me succeed. You know, it's
so do you look
very
upon
complex.
Do you look upon it as this is part of the deal when some awful story comes out in the Enquirer, you don't get mad, you say,
it goes with the territory, and it's unfortunate, but it goes with the territory.
Are you hurt by this stuff? I mean, does it reduce you to tears ever to see some of the stuff that's written about you? Are you a reduced to tears kind of person? I don't know.
No. In the very beginning, I think I was very affected by what people said to me and what people wrote about me. But once you know, like anything, the more it happens to you, the more the better your ability is to laugh it off.
Yeah.
You know, when the nude pictures of me came out in Playboy, I was just, I mean, this was at the very beginning of my fame, so to speak, and I was mortified. I thought I would never work in this town again. You know, I thought, that's it, my career's over with.
Yeah.
But but it's not, obviously, and I had to sort of like, you know, dry my tears and, you know, make a decision. I could either walk out on the street or walk out on a stage and say, look, I don't give a damn, you know, or I could run away with my tail between my legs. And the public also picks up on that, you know, and the frightening thing about the press and that aspect of the press is it's something that you have no control over, you know. And if you go along and you work really hard and you try so hard to make things good, and then all of a sudden something comes out and you have no say in the matter, it's a frightening concept.
Yeah. You've since gone on to do much better nudes, right? Oops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody is making so much fucking noise over